We're going to take some time now to explore the evaluation. As Carol said, the outputs are a resource for everyone to use to continue affecting positive change for young people with care experience. To talk more about the evaluation's key findings, I'm going to welcome Nadia Hyder and Katy McMillan from Research Scotland on screen now. Hello, Katy and Nadia. Nice to see you both. Thanks for joining us, and I'm just going to hand over to you now.
Thanks, Mary. Hi, I'm Katy from Research Scotland, and I'm just delighted to be here today with my colleague Nadia, launching our evaluation of the Champions Board approach. Nadia and I would like to spend some time this morning just having a chat about what we found through the evaluation. But first, we really want to say thank you. When we started this work, it was back in February 2020. It was a really exciting job for us, but it wasn't an unusual bit of work for us. But then the pandemic came about and it changed absolutely everything about what we could do and how we could involve people in the research. And it also completely changed what you as Champions Boards were doing and how you supported and worked with young people. But even during such a challenging time, we were just so pleased that more than 60 young people and more than 100 staff and partners involved in the Champions Boards across Scotland gave up their precious time to take part in the evaluation. We hugely value the time each and every one of you gave to the research, and we couldn't have done it without you. One of the things that I found just so interesting about this evaluation was how people feel about Champions Boards. Young people and others see Champions Boards as special places. They're safe places. They're spaces where they can be themselves, they can eat together, share ideas and work to change things for the better. Nadia, you spoke to many of the young people involved in this research. Can you tell me just a wee bit more about what you found about how a Champions Board feels?
Sure, thanks Katy. So as part of this evaluation, we asked everyone that we spoke with how it feels to be involved in a Champions Board. It was probably the most interesting question that we asked, and people gave me really thoughtful and honest answers. Certainly the language that young people used was overwhelmingly positive. They said that it felt like a family, that they felt like they had a sense of belonging in the Champions Board, and also that it was just fun. It was a place where they felt happy and they felt special. And the main things that helped them to feel that way were the relationships that they had built up through the Champions Board. And this was relationships between them and other young people who were going there, them and the staff who were there, and also the relationships that they were building up with those corporate parents and wider partners. They also really loved how there were lots of different ways that they could get involved in the Champions Board, lots of really creative and interesting ways that they could participate in this. And they really liked just the general space and the atmosphere that Champions Board created, which was really well designed to be just for young people, really centred around what they would like, what they would need, and what would make them feel good. The other really important factor was the support that they got from the staff who were managing those Champions Boards. They ended up being kind of almost a one-stop shop for some people, in that if they had any issues, any challenges, anything on their minds, they could go to those staff members and they knew it was someone who was there, who would listen and who would do their best to help. For partners, like the corporate parents that we spoke with, it was still a really, really positive experience overwhelmingly. But they also shared with us that sometimes being part of a Champions Board was actually a little bit difficult, a bit challenging. It was something new and different and made them feel nervous, certainly at the beginning. And for me as a researcher, it was lovely to have that level of honesty from people who were willing to share their journey. And while the Champions Board felt great for most people, it wasn't all easy to achieve, and it was really clear that there was a lot of effort involved in making sure that everyone recognised and valued the time that was needed to invest in those relationships, for people to get to know each other and ultimately to build that confidence and trust. So it's clear that when it works, it's really powerful and really does create that special feeling of connection and belonging.
Yes, absolutely. And when you have that feeling, amazing things can happen. We spoke to the young people about the impact of being involved in a Champions Board for them. And most strikingly, and it connects back to what everyone has said this morning, young people said that the Champions Boards really helped them to build and strengthen relationships. This was with their peers, through meeting people who understand them, and also meeting people in lots of different circumstances. but also building relationships with adults through working with adults as equals and building trust. And we saw that this really had ripple effects as young people went on to seek advice and support from adults who were involved in Champions Boards when they needed it. Young people were also very clear that being involved in a Champions Board really helped them to feel more confident trying new things, sharing ideas, learning new skills, and also working as a team, becoming a leader and a role model. And all of this had a big impact on their goals and aspirations. So we could see such a clear impact on young participants, but for many, the main reason they were actually involved in the Champions Board was to change things for others. Nadia, again, you spoke to so many young people who wanted to bring about change. Did they say that they had been able to change things?
Absolutely. Most of the young people that we spoke with felt that they were definitely able to bring about change, or at least working on something that would eventually result in some change. And through the evaluation, we came across so many nice examples of changes in policy and practice across different fields, as Carol mentioned at the beginning of this session. And some of these tied in really nicely with policy changes at a national level. So we heard some great examples around housing and young people not being present as homeless, for example, in order to access housing. Lots of things around keeping brothers and sisters together. Lots of things around the changes taking place in schools, Champions Boards popping up in schools, mental health support in schools, lots of different things there. And also changes around the justice system, so new approaches and different approaches to children's hearings and how they're run. And while there was so much that was positive, it was really clear that making this kind of change happen is not at all easy, and it does take time. And one thing that was particularly important when running a Champions Board was to make sure that you provide regular feedback and updates to young people about those changes, including kind of what was changing, in what ways it would be changing, and when those changes would come into effect. And this was especially important when something wasn't necessarily going to change quickly or wasn't going to change at all, so that young people could understand why something they'd suggested was not being implemented. We also found that these changes to policy and practice came about because of changes in people's understanding in their kind of behaviour and commitment. Katy, what do you think made it possible to make those changes to policy and practice actually happen?
Yeah, we could really see that the Champions Boards help people and organisations to much better understand care experience and their role as a corporate parent. When people became involved in the Champions Boards, they became even more committed and passionate, and they became more confident, pushing for rights and challenging situations which might be unfair. And all of this really helped to bring about this change. Really interestingly, people talked of now feeling a moral as well as a statutory duty as a corporate parent, and they were listening much more to what young people have to say at a much earlier stage. And all of this helped to build a much better understanding among corporate parents of the impact of the decisions that they make on real people and the impact of their policies and practices. We also saw this in a really practical way through our research. In our interviews, we could absolutely see the passion of corporate parents and also see the ability to reflect on practice, be critical of their own practice, and listen to young people. We asked some corporate parents whether young people could be involved in the interviews as peer evaluators, and the answers were just so positive and enthusiastic. Nadia, throughout this evaluation, you worked really closely with a group of 11 peer evaluators who were mainly from the Champions Boards to deliver this work. Can you tell us what your experience was like of working so closely with them?
Sure. I mean, I really enjoyed working with the peer evaluators. I loved it. Throughout the evaluation, they brought such a lot of natural insight into the work that we were doing. It was really useful to take account of their perspective throughout the evaluation. So from designing the discussion guides at the beginning all the way through to designing the final report that you'll be able to see today. I really particularly enjoyed working with them on the interviews that we did with the corporate parents, like you mentioned there. I thought the young evaluators we worked with were so professional, and they were really honest about their reflections after each interview too. So working with them kind of helped me to reflect on my own practice with it. So it really made me kind of take more notice of my style and the way that I speak and the way that I work generally.
Yeah, me too. And it seems absolutely right to finish our conversation this morning just recognising the input of these peer evaluators Nadia and I hugely enjoyed working with them, and if you want to hear more from us and from some of our peer evaluators, we'd love to see you in our longer session that we're hosting this afternoon. So that's all from us this morning, and I'll pass back to Mary. Thanks very much for your time.
Thanks so much, Katy and Nadia, and to everyone at Research Scotland. When we commissioned the evaluation in early 2020, we always knew it was going to be a big piece of work, but I don't think we quite anticipated a global pandemic would take away any opportunity for Katy, Nadia and the other peer evaluators to meet with people face to face. The final outputs from the evaluation, they really are a testament to the perseverance and the commitment of the researchers, the participants, and also the peer evaluators. We're so grateful to you all, and we hope that everyone who's been involved is proud of the contribution that you've made.